Well, good evening, beautiful people, and welcome to another segment of Success in Motion, where we discuss topics that will inspire, empower, and promote to catapult you to the next level in your life. I thank each and every one of you all for joining on this virtual platform on today, and for those of you who are listening via phone, and also for those of you who will be tuning in via recording on YouTube or Facebook. I thank you because, again, you could have chosen to be doing anything else, but you decided to join us today so that you could be a part of Success in Motion. So last week, I started our conversation, our topics for the month of July in regards to promoting businesses. Because, again, we're all about inspiring, empowering, and promoting one another so that everyone is catapulted to the next level. And my desire is to be able to promote each and every one of you because, again, you're not all connected to the people that I'm connected to. I'm not connected to all the people that you are connected to, but together we can make sure that we are seen and we are heard. And it's all about, in this time, becoming unified and collaborating together and partnering with one another. So this way it will take us beyond our sphere of influence and the circles that we are around and a part of, to go, as you all know, for those of you who know me, to go beyond what you can see in the sky, because it's beyond the sky is the limit. So today I am so thankful and appreciative of this gentleman who has joined us for today. He is Robert Gaines III. He is the host of Past, Present, and Possibilities. That's his broadcast that he hosts every Tuesday evening at 7:30 p.m. On freeconferencecall.com. He's going to share that information about his platform and what he discusses on that. But he is joining us today, and we're going to be talking about union, okay, solidarity, and things of that nature. We know, so I am a member of a local union with the employer that I'm with. And I am the membership ambassador for the MEA on the state level, and I'm the local membership and PR chair. And it's very important, to understand how, when you're a part of a large organization, you have to really do your research and do your homework, before joining any organization. But when you find one who has values that are the same as yours, if not very similar, then it's always good to become connected, because as we all know, you can have one voice, but you can have one voice with millions of other people who are like-minded and have the same values, goals, and beliefs that you share. And when you all come together, the power that you have and the accomplishments that, oh my goodness, that you can achieve will be so great. It will be beyond anything that you can possibly imagine or think of, because, again, there's power in numbers, there's power in unity, and you become one voice. So you all, I would like for you all to help me welcome Mr. Robert Gaines III of Past, Present, and Possibilities. Robert, I thank you for joining us on today. Thank you for gracing us with your presence.
Thank you so much, Nicole. As always, the check is in the mail. Because with introductions like that, I feel like I can go to either the Republican or Democratic convention and get the nomination for presidential bid. I thank you so much for being such an amazing host, and just for being such an amazing presence. Your platform is absolutely amazing, and I really do believe that it is before its time. and I am so thankful to be here with you now. Though I have missed many moons of such great conversations, I am excited to be here for the ones that I have been, and I don't plan to miss many, if any more. It is a pleasure, an honor, and a privilege to be in union fellowship, brother and sistership with you in union work. I know we don't oftentimes talk about a lot of things that we do outside of business, but union business is really truly our business, because though we are business owners and we have business goals, it doesn't mean that we don't have bills to pay right now. And every business has to start on the ground floor. And it gives you a perspective of appreciation for all those that come and work for you, to remind you how you want to be treated as an employee. The Walmart and Sam's Club way for the longest was to pay the lowest possible wages for as many bodies as possible to put into a store, for everybody to be happily employed. Not so much so when you start hearing of all the discriminatory issues and things of that taking place, or even the unhappy employees. I felt like I'm just not paid enough. And many people look at unions as, oh, I don't want to join the union because they just take union dues and they don't do nothing and they don't do what I ask them to do. Well, the thing is, so many people have forgotten that unions were not created for you to pay your dues and forget about it. They were created for you to pay your dues and join in fellowship with your laboring brothers and sisters in whatever your field is, whether it be UAW, whether it be education, whether it be Teamsters. There's a bunch of different organizations out there that are unions, and they are all filled with the same purpose, and that is truly to be encouraging to one another and supportive of one another. But you don't get to walk away from the job and not do union work and expect your job to continue to be the happy place that you have created it to be. That is honestly where we are today, where so many people have forgotten that when the UAW started, there were people walking into Ford plants and GM plants and whatever other plants. And when I say people, I'm going to be very clear. There were white people walking into these jobs that were coming out that you could not tell if they were really white people or black people, because everybody came out with so much dirt and soot. They were breathing in all of these horrible fumes and working long shifts almost as if they were slaves. And they said, you know what, no, we're not doing this. And in banding together, they were able to say, we're demanding 40 hours a week of work. That's all we're doing is 40 hours. You're not anything over that, you're going to pay me extra. They said, you're going to make sure that this work environment is not going to kill me for coming in here to make this money that I'm making, that you making hand over fist. And all the things that we have today are due to labor unions. And so it is exciting to be a leader, a president, as I am, of a group of laborers. I work with education and educators, and I do not represent teachers. Education has a very vast amount of fields to be a part of, and I am fortunate to represent the secretaries, the office clerks, the paraprofessionals, the media aides, the career coordinators, and those are the 4 groups that I cover in my local. There are other locals that cover the teachers and the ancillary staff, like your speech pathologists and social workers. There's another local that covers your bus drivers and everybody in dispatch that takes care of transportation. And then there's, you know, your custodial, maintenance, and food service in some districts. Some districts have outsourced custodian or food services, and so they're not unionized typically when you give it to a third party. I will never sit there and say third parties are horrible. I'll let them do the work on their own to do such. In many school districts, when you walk into a school, the first 2 or 3 years that you have a new food service company, oh, the food is so much better, oh, this, that, and the third. But once the contract is comfortable and they're sitting there and they've managed to squeeze out a 5 or 6 year deal and the employees get comfortable, all of a sudden it becomes laxed and the food doesn't taste as good and the kids are not as happy or satisfied, and the above and beyond to be a presence in the district oftentimes disappears. When it comes to custodial work, you can see some schools are really clean and they're like, wow, I can almost eat off the floor, especially when the custodians are hired directly by the company themselves versus a third party. The third party oftentimes say, okay, yeah, we'll hire 45 people to cover a district this big, and we're gonna, charge you this much per person, and we'll cover everything under the sun from there. And oftentimes, many businesses, especially in the public sector, which in education we are, it is a matter of we don't have to pay their retirement. We don't have to pay into their pension system. So it's easier to go with a third party. We can pay them $3 more an hour and still save money down the road. And the thing of it is what is the cost of a safe, clean learning environment for our students? Is it really worth us alleviating the pension and retirement of folks who are giving service to the community? We're not talking about somebody who is servicing the community by putting up a basketball rim in the parks and recs and whatever. We're talking about somebody that actually is giving food or teaching fishermen to be fishermen. Because with knowledge, you give kids the opportunity to go and be whatever they want. You show them how to become their own thinkers. You show them how to become their own people and viable citizens. In saying all of that, unionship is meant to protect those who are offering the services. It is meant to keep everybody safe, and also to allow you to have due diligence without before losing your job. As you know, Michigan is a right-to-work state now, and so they can literally come in tomorrow and say, hey, you know what? I don't know how else to say it, but we don't like your hair today. And so if you're African American with shoulder-length hair or shorter, you've got to go. You just don't fit the bill because it's not flowing the way we want. All of a sudden, you're out of a job. Well, the union sits there and says, one, that's discriminatory. You can't do that. What disciplinary actions is it that's taking place that's allowing us to remove this person from their job? And what else is it that's going on that is a problem? And all of that being said, yes, there are some people who may not deserve to hold on to their job, but there are some administrators who actually need to do their job and keep the proper disciplinary on track for somebody to be removed. And that's the thing. Schools are so busy far too often doing everything but what they're supposed to be doing because we can cut this job, and this job and put it all on these people, and they're still going to have to do their job and everything else. So more often than not, you hear of bad people, or not bad people, people who make bad choices on 1 or 2 occasions, keeping a job that they probably shouldn't have, but because administration can't keep up with paperwork and disciplinary, they don't.
So, I'm sorry. I'm like, that was good. I remember years ago, I worked for an insurance company, and I had a situation where I needed to use, well, I didn't know that I needed, the union, and but my union rep did not help me, and that kind of put a bad taste in my mouth. So it wasn't until recently that I actually joined with our union, and my hopes were that I would not have that experience anymore ever again. So with being a part of the union, can you share, again, we know being a part of something, they have your back, but what are some cases where you would be a member of the union and may not necessarily receive the representation that you think that you should have? I know you just kind of briefly touched on that, but if you can just expound on that a little bit more, that would be great.
Opportunities that you have in the union are almost endless. So unionism is very politically charged because the American political system, though it is not well put together, or though it's not well maintained it is maintained for the intended purposes, which has some trials and tribulations within it. However, it is still typically a fairly fair way of electing, selecting, or holding people to be accountable and put into positions. But in any organization, there are a lot of things that need to be done that are not done by those that are elected. So there are I'm not going to say backdoor jobs, there are side jobs, I'll call them, that are important, such as, nobody thinks of the PR chair, but the person that can speak on behalf of an organization. So if someone were to call and say, hey, we want to do a story on your union, technically I could say, well, you can contact our PR chair. This is her name and her phone number, and she can tell you everything you need to know. As the proud president that I am, I probably would not pass that buck so fast unless I just had to. If it was talking about membership, I would absolutely pass that buck because you are membership and PR. And what better two positions to put together than making sure that the organization looks good, and it looks good especially to the members who are coming into membership, into family is what I'll call it. You have opportunities to grow and to learn and to see so many different things, and you learn so many different professional tools and skills that you didn't realize that would follow you for the rest of your life and be important. No, you didn't go to college for it. What you did was you took a job and you paid your dues. So your dues work extremely well when you become actively involved. Your dues pay so much more than anything you'll ever receive. So people sit there and say, oh, my dues are so expensive. Well, what are my dues doing for me? Like you said, you didn't get representation once. And there are some people who don't do their job well at representing members. There are some people who are in powerful positions who are racist or biased and will not support everybody as they are sworn to. And that's really difficult to deal with. It's challenging, and it makes you want to downcast almost every union at that point, because there's no reason for you to sit there and say, well, I'm the president, and I'm saying that you don't have a case, and I won't represent you. Well, if you don't know what other options you have, then that's a problem. And, the reality of it is there was a point in time where I had a union rep in my building who didn't really care for me and was very clear about it. And because I had been involved and active on the state, the regional, state, and national level prior to this incident, I knew that I didn't have to call on my building rep to come in and sit with me. I could call on any member, even though my building rep was a very knowledgeable person. I understood the dislike. I'm not saying she wouldn't have done her job, but do I really want to put myself in a position to where somebody who knows how to do their job might choose to not do it? No. That's not what you want to do. And because I was active, while paying my dues, I knew my other options. And those other options for me worked out in my benefit, in my favor. And so when you hear people say, oh, unions don't do nothing but protect bad people. This guy, he came to work drunk, trying to put cars and stuff together, blah, blah, blah. Well, again, it goes back to administrators enforcing the rules and disciplinary procedures that are in place for that purpose. Because the reality of it is, the union says, guess what? We all are human and we all have our own downfalls, whatever it may be. So to sit there and fire somebody because they're a drug user is probably totally reverse of what should happen. If you really care about your employees, you should try to get them help first. So the first thing that you probably want to do is say, you know, hey, we're going to give you some time off. We're going to send you to rehab. If you choose not to go to rehab, then we're probably going to be in a position to where we're going to have to let you go and you're going to have to figure this out on your own. But while you're in rehab, you can get 40, 50% of your pay. Get yourself together. That way you're not totally out of money. Your insurance benefits, along with the help that your union has provided for you, will keep you in a position to where you should be able to maintain. And that is the ideal of the union, is to make sure that you're protected even in your weakest moments. And though the public may look at it and be like, how dare you have such a weak moment? But, you know, everybody can take the splinter out of one eye and not recognize the forest in their own, because that's just what we do as humans.
That's right. That was good. A very good point. You know, when you said, you know, the members are protected. You know, and so what was coming to my mind is that, you know, we're allowed some grace. You know, because again, understanding, you know, that none of us are perfect, and there are situations that, you know, many people come into. You know, maybe not the same, but there are situations where, you know, you may be having a moment, and you know, how is that addressed, as opposed to, you know, just immediate termination without any, you know, recourse, or, you know, what's the word I'm trying to say? Being able to help get you back on track, you know. So I think that's always a good thing, you know, unless it's just something that's abominable, you know. But so along with that, I want to thank all of you all who are joining in on the call. We are talking about union and being a unified front, solidarity, and things of that nature. And we have our host, Robert Gaines III, from his platform, Past, Present, and Possibilities, and he is the president of his local union, and he's sharing with us some very valuable information in regards to solidarity. Robert, I'd like to ask you another question, though, also, in regards to, so, you know, when we think about membership, you know, a lot of times, you know, it can be like having AAA. You know, you're a member of AAA, they give you a membership card, and you're afforded all these opportunities to get discounts, you know, membership discounts and things of that nature. And a lot of times people don't take advantage of those discounts. You know, my hand is up because, you know, every time I see, I'm like, dang, I done paid $200 and some dollars every year, because it's, you know, me and my girls, and I'm like, all these discounts, but I haven't taken part of them. But in regards to the union that you're with the educational system, what other opportunities are there for members to grow? So we know that there's the state, the local level, you know, there's the state level, national, you know, and things of that nature. What personal or professional development programs are? How can one start from the local level and move up within the organization? So if they had any political desires or just wanting to help more, you know, with the union.
That is an amazing question. And unfortunately, it really boils down to leadership. The leadership, I know, in many places have not afforded their members the opportunities as widely, they have not opened the door as widely as they needed to for their members. A lot of times you have the same folks sitting in the same seats, even the seats that they don't belong in, because when you reach the level of service of being elected to one place or another, it's a big deal. And to sit there and say, you know, hey, I'm the president. Well, I'm going here and I'm going there. So we're in Michigan. And so you might hear me quite frequently say, I'm going to Lansing. Well, where we live is not that far from Lansing, but it's still a nice little trip. If I tell you I'm going to Lansing for the weekend, you know, you don't realize that I'm up and at a meeting more likely at 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock in the morning, and we're working diligently. Even though we may be fed well and everything else, we are diligently working from the time that we get there to the time that we leave. And while we are there together, we build our bond with other leaders or whatever it is from around the state. After the work is done for the day, into that night, and regardless to what time you go to bed, you got to be back up the next morning at the job to do the same work or to continue the work. So the opportunities that you speak of really comes to self-desire and understanding on where you want to go. The opportunities of growth is in everything from understanding politics to almost becoming a politician, and trainings on how to be a leader or an organizer, so that, again, we're talking about unity. Things happen in numbers. Right now I know of a situation where there's a group of young folks who contacted me as a union leader and said, we know that you are a union leader who happens to be of color, and we were wondering if you would help us to organize the work that we have in mind. And this literally followed right after George Floyd's death, and they were like, we're tired of the systemic racism that is taking place in our district, and we want to voice the things that we have concerns about. The two leaders, the two young ladies up front right now are freshmen in college come August, but they've already graduated high school, and they have young folks who are going into their junior year. And I know of a couple of 8th graders who are excited to take on this very same role in leadership as youth, to hold the district accountable for making sure that minority students receive an equitable education for everyone else. And it excited me because when I think of unity, I don't think of black and white. I think of we as one, because we are a people. And when people move together, there is nothing that can stop a one-accorded mindset. And the union will teach you how to organize such things. They might not know what they're teaching you to organize. They might specifically be teaching you to organize something today, but tomorrow you'll be organizing something else very much in a different vein, but the same process. And life is full of processes. Once you learn how to do the process, you oftentimes don't forget it. If you want to learn to go from being an educator to being an administrator, who does it better than educators? You know, when you look at UAW, you go from being a person working on the line to being a committee man to being somebody who goes to the bigger meetings, and there's so many different levels and layers in the UAW. Wow. But they are also such a huge organization, so you might have representatives or committeemen representing 200 or 300 people, but then they go and report to a group of 300 or 400 people that somebody has to receive all of those informations from, and that's how the ladder works. And you work and you're elected to those positions. That means, guess what? People need to know who you are. And so you need to know how to be, you have to be comfortable with sometimes being uncomfortable, stepping out of your comfort zone. And when we grow and we're able to step out of our comfort zone, a lot of times it's because we've had people in our corner to walk with us. And you meet those people as you go to the various conferences that are offered. And when presidents do not offer opportunities to go to conferences, it's because they don't want somebody who's been paying dues but not active to take advantage of funding that may be available, because they want to know that you're going to take this serious. They don't want to spend the money that the dues are paying for you to go to a conference one time, have a blast. Don't make all the stuff you're supposed to make. You're not in place where you're supposed to be, and you come back in time, but, oh, girl, dude, we went here, we part, and yes, we party like rock stars after hours. But we are so business driven and focused that we have to unwind. And the unwinding allows us to know each other on an intimate level. And that's not a physical intimacy. That's an intimacy of who you are inside, just to be very clear. But you have those intimate conversations because who are your kids? What are you passionate about? Why? How do you get there? Really, you're doing this? A really good friend of mine is, what is she? She sits on the Milwaukee, Wisconsin City Council. And she's a really good friend of mine. How did I meet her? She's also in the union. I met her at a national conference. And we talk on a consistent basis. I can't say frequently, but we talk 2 or 3 times a year. And anytime she needs something or I need something or we just want to pick up the phone, hey, how you doing? We're there. And so the biggest thing is everything in life is about your network. And unionship and unionhood is really about networking. Standing together and finding the way to get there comes from great leadership saying, hey, I know you've been paying your dues, but I haven't seen you apply to go to any conferences. Is there a reason why? There are some people who work 3 and 4 jobs and can't get, 2 or 3 days off to attend a conference. And when that's the case, it makes it really difficult because those folks are the ones who deserve to go and have an opportunity. If you send 1 member or 2 members who may not ever step up and do much in the local, but all of a sudden they become lifetime committed members to pay their dues and they have a deeper understanding, at some point in time they may say, hey, my kids are 7, 8, 9 years older. The president that was in at this time sent me to this conference. I would like to know, is it possible for me to go to a conference like that if it's still around or whatever the case may be? Because I'm interested in becoming more involved. And the involvement that you have is what opens up the doors to your opportunities. But it is also very responsible of the president to make sure that the membership is aware of those opportunities and share with the membership.
Okay, that's good. That's good. So that, that helps for those people who, have, a skewed view about what unionism is about, and then also being able to inform, everyone about the opportunities that are basically unlimited, when you become a union member, Robert, also, so I would like for you to take out this time to share with us, why you chose to get involved. What was it that, that kind of put that spark of interest in you? And not only how did you get involved, but did you have someone who mentored you to help to, usher you into the role that you in to just take you to where you're soaring so high within your local, state union and global, I'll say,
So it's really funny that you asked that question because literally as you started to ask and you proceeded in the ideal details that you would like to hear, it had me to reflect, and I was able to reflect very quickly on how amazing my journey has been. I grew up and GM took care of my benefits as a kid. My father worked for GM. I didn't know it until I became somewhat active in my union. My grandmother shared with me on my father's side that my mother helped to start the union in the hospital that she worked in. And I was like, what? Really? I didn't know that. So when I called my mom, I was like, Mama, you helped start the union? Yeah, it wasn't that big of a deal, baby. We just needed protection, and I didn't want to lose my job over nothing, and they wasn't exactly doing right by everybody. Okay, cool. And so I then turned around and was like, that's really cool. But my thing is, I am a very loyal person, and my loyalty allows me to recognize what it is that I'm loyal to. And unionism is something that I was born with. Though my parents never took me to any union-involved activities much, I'll take that back. I went to maybe 1 or 2 as a kid. I remember UAW Hall a few times, but it was very few. So it's not like, oh yeah, union this, union that. But I absorbed it, and I guess, you know, it's a part of, I'll say, being a believer, because being a believer in God, you believe in the unity of people and the work that can be done. And I started in the district that I'm in as a hall monitor. And as a hall monitor, I was being paid $10 an hour with 3 unpaid days off. That was my benefit packet. And I'm sitting there every day smiling at people, and I realize, you know, Columbine happened in '99, and it was another school that happened, I want to say, in 2002 or 3 or something like that. And here it is, 2006, and I'm at the front door like, hey, how are you? I'm just sitting here to make sure we're all safe and they're not blowing up and you're not shooting anybody. What's your name? Please sign in here. You know, and I'm doing it with a smile, and I'm like, wow. At $10 an hour in 3 days, not paid off, like, that's my benefit package. No health care, no other benefit at all. And I'm watching people walk through the halls with students who I didn't understand. I knew they had to be special ed or had special needs, but I didn't understand. I mean, I see him walk through the hall 3 or 4 times a day with a kid, and he's got a stick with a tennis ball, and he's real good at finding all the scuff marks on the floor, and the tennis balls are great at getting scuff marks off of marble. And I one day asked, I said, hey, by chance, if you don't mind me asking, how much do you get paid? And she said, oh, well, I'm at the top of the scale now. I'm about $20 an hour. 20 an hour? You just walked through the... Okay, thank you. She came back again that afternoon. I said, by chance, how do I find out how to get such a job? Any jobs like that available? And it was funny because she said, as a matter of fact, there's a job available now, but you might want to apply for it, because I think, if not today, tomorrow's the last day to apply for it. Okay, my next break, or the next time I'm in the room watching cameras, I'll also be filling out this application. And come to find out, one of the people that I was so kind and polite to on a consistent basis, who I didn't even recognize, was the person who would be doing my interview. Because he was the program director of a specific program, and that's where the job was in his actual school, but he had a satellite class in the school that I was working. And he said, I've watched you. I didn't know I was being watched. I was just being me. But he loved the way I interact with kids and other adults walking into the building, and he said, you know, I've been watching you for a long time, and I think you'll make a great candidate. So, you know, and he explained all this to me after I was hired. And so here it is. I'm sitting there like, wow. And I started in the job in his building in 2007. I was a hall monitor for just over a year. I got into my classroom, and I had no idea what I was doing. This is not the same classroom with the lady who walking down the hall with the kid picking up scuff marks on the floor, because she couldn't have been dealing with this. The kicking, the biting, the scratching, the spitting. Oh my goodness, it was a almost war zone. And then I realized, this is amazing. I'm not a babysitter, but I feel like I'm being overpaid because I don't know what I'm doing. What am I supposed to do? And so in talking with some colleagues who have been around the block a few times in education and were not too far from leaving and going out the door, they were very quick to welcome me to the building and excited, because when I got the job, you had to be a union member, and your dues came out of your check. And 5 years later, that changed. But one of those women, my building rep at that time, was excited to have me. I was like, how do I join? What do I do? She said, oh, wow, you really want to be active? I said, yeah, where's the meeting? How do I get there? And she's like, okay, hold on. I'm excited that you're happy. And to this day, I can see this little short white woman, all of maybe 4'10", with such a strong personality, short haircut, and you can tell nobody messed with her. Like, her business was her business. But she found a love and appreciation for me and my desire to be active. And there was another young lady across the hall from me who was about 4 inches taller than she was, heavier set and a tad bit younger, but just as much of a rich and amazing personality. Also a white woman. She said, I got to introduce you to my boyfriend. Your boyfriend? Yeah, he's my union boyfriend. Don't worry about it. He's a great guy. He's another black guy, and quite honestly, he was the only active black man in the association, in the local. Wow. So, come to find out, this guy happened to have a major title. He was the president of the Educational Support Professionals on the state level. And he worked in my district. I didn't know who he was. I'm brand new to this thing, so I didn't know exactly how big of a deal it was. But wow. And so she introduces me, oh, this is my boyfriend Georgie, as she called him. And hey Georgie, this is Robert. We call him RG. Why don't you take good care of him? He's interested in knowing some things about the union. So George and I sat down, and he said, you know, I don't know you that well, and I was getting ready to let this all go because I'm tired. He said, but for you, I will stay around a year to make sure you get your feet on the ground and, you know, help you to get started. And he was able to take some of the power that he had. He said, I've never done this before. It's my last one. I don't care. I can't get in trouble at this point. I'm taking you with me to Orlando. So he took me to Orlando to a National Educational Support Professional Conference where, for anybody who's ever watched the movie Pursuit of Happiness, the Rich Foundation was created from Will Smith and his son, and it's called the Rich Foundation. I can't think of the guy's actual name, but his son was there. And typically they're both there to present the Educational Support Professional of the Year a $10,000 check. Well, after that part of the luncheon was over or whatever, he was out on the couch in the lobby just sitting there, and I sat down, and we literally sat there and had a 20-minute conversation just talking about nothing. This guy, I mean, we're talking to somebody who is a multi-millionaire, and I'm happy to not be making $10 an hour no more with no benefits, because I now have benefits and everything else, and I'm learning. And I was able to meet so many amazing young leaders and up-and-coming people who are now in some very powerful positions within the state and national levels of their organization, many of them not from Michigan. But it offered me the opportunity to realize I can meet people. So my interest was to find out how to protect myself, because the district that I was in, I understood that I was a rarity as a black male, and I didn't know how much protection I would get or I would need, and I wanted to know how to protect myself rather than to wait on somebody. And thank God for doing that, because there was a point in time a few years later where my building rep was not fond of me, as I mentioned earlier. And that is where my start came in, was somebody was excited to make sure I was introduced to the right people to have my name out there. And as it was mentioned at the time, when you get into the union and you decide to become active, you're on a surfboard and the wave is yours. And you can make that wave as great as you want and ride it as long as you want. But the moment you let that wave go and pass you by, you don't know if another one is going to come for you to get on. And so it's best that you just keep going. I was a young father and husband at the time, and I really couldn't pursue things at the speed that they were coming. And this here was 2007. And so here it is, 2020, and I am now local president. I have served on national I've served in national parts of the organization. I've served on state parts. I'm still serving on state parts of the organization, and I've served in regional parts of the organization. So I've had my hand touch almost every part of the organization. And the interest truly came from I didn't want to be alone. I also knew that it would take a while before I found people that looked like me, whether it be black or male, because education is such a woman-dominated field. Sadly, so much of the leadership is white men, and they're there, but that's also the same power structure that our country has. And I'm not saying that leads to racism, but it means that I had to be cautious and wary because I had no idea about what the whole organization was about. I found out that there's plenty of room to grow. There are so many amazing people, black, white, and everything in between, and they are all full of love. Then there are those who are very clear that they don't like people of color, no matter which shade you are. If you're not white, you are not okay with them, and the only thing you have in common is you work in schools. And those are the ones that concern me most because they're in leadership position. And as I said, your leadership position on the local level is how you find those who are going to go to conferences. Well, if you have someone who is not fond of any particular group of people, whether it be because of ethnic color or ethnic background or sexual gender orientation, all of a sudden you have somebody that's going to stop you from being able to get to the places that should be open and available to you. And all of that to say this. The excitement that I had and that I still have for being active in the union simply comes from the world of opportunity to make things right. And so when the students reached out to me to ask me to help organize, it was something that I've learned over the years from going to these various conferences. And those are the things that makes it exciting to be an active dues-paying member. A lot of people say, I'm not political, or I don't want to do this, I don't want to do that. What you don't really want to have happen is to lose the rights of being a union member. And when there's enough people to say, you know what, I don't want to pay dues, you're effectively saying, I don't want to stand up and let my union protect me, or you're saying I want the union to protect me for free is what you're saying. Until you realize enough people said I want my union to protect me for free, and the union's like, yeah, we don't do that. You pay your car insurance even when you don't get in an accident for years, and you don't complain. Yeah, but that's a law. Well, how about it's a law that you make sure that your home is taken care of, and your union is a part of taking care of your home. All of that, simply to say, it is important to be an active dues-paying member. No matter what level, once you find out the array of things to be, or the array of things that you can create, because there's so much space to create, even on the local level, you can determine how much work and time you put in to your union on a weekly, monthly, or yearly basis.
Well, wow, that was very valuable information, Robert. I thank you so much for sharing, your experience with how you became a member in the journey or the voyage. I like to say the voyage. We're on a voyage, of discovery. But your voyage of becoming a member to becoming the president of your local, to even serving on the regional and the national and the state level. That speaks volumes. And even as you mentioned, you can become a part of something, but you have to show your interest, because, sometimes there may be someone that may come and tap you on your shoulder and say, hey, I would like for you to be a part of this, and you're like, you weren't even thinking about it, and then to also know, because you mentioned something that I hold near and dear to me also, being able to be consistent and do what you're supposed to do, and people are watching you without you knowing it. And when they see your character, your personality, and how you treat others, then that, people are looking, they're like, hey, so it actually opens up opportunities for you to be able to just freely walk into or flow into, even I'll say, your purpose and destiny, because as you are being a good steward, you were standing at the door, greeting people, hey, and then you saw someone who, was doing another job, and that kind of ushered you into meeting the person who had been watching you, and then just becoming a part of the union, again, being unified and having, many members but one voice when everyone is on one accord is an amazing thing, because when you have that much power and presence, there's so much that, we can accomplish together. So I just want to thank you so very much for sharing this great information with us. I know that I'm sure that there are those of you who are on the line also, whether your employer is union backed or not, but just to have a clearer understanding of what unionship is all about. Did you have any last words that you would like to share?
I just wanted to say thank you so very much, not just for the success in motion and the promotion of businesses and the time that you're taking to promote people who are willing and able to voice their businesses and success, but also for being a very active member in your union, for being a positive, uplifting person and voice, and the role that you play oftentimes may be minimalized, but that can't be anymore because your heart and your voice is too big, as well as your presence. So thank you immensely for your amazement.
Okay, well, thank you. Totally not expected, but I thank you very, very much. It only takes one person to see you and to believe in you and to see the potential that you have, and knowing that, because of the mission and the vision and they see you, that they can, again, tap you on the shoulder and say, hey, have you ever considered, and become a part of that team, and, you link up, and that unionization is great. You all, I want to thank each and every one of you all for joining us today. Again, Robert, he is the Robert. I want you to share your platform with us really quickly before we before we leave, so this way our audience will know how and where to see you on your platform. So please share.
Yes, I am the host of Past, Present, and Possibilities, and my name is Robert Gaines III. It is also a platform. It is platformed here on freeconferencecall.com. And I will be sure to share the link with this video as it is shared. It is a place where you come, and the dialogue is really a conversation amongst people to talk about various topics. This week's topic was Past, Present, and Possibilities of Racism #2. We've covered the past on one conversation before. We covered the presence of racism as it is today. And the things that not so much is right in the public eye. It's not so much the physical aspect that we talked about, but the mental and emotional. And we will talk about the possibilities of racism and the elimination of it or the growth of it in another segment sometime soon. So the airing of that will be announced, and keep watch for it. You can find me on Facebook under Robert Gaines III. That is typically where I post the Past, Present, and Possibilities on typically Monday and Tuesday, as the show happens Tuesdays at 7:30 p.m. Thank you again so very much for your time and opportunity.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. And I would like to acknowledge one of our new audience members, Elizabeth. Elizabeth, I thank you so very much for joining us on today. This was truly a treat. I met her yesterday on Robert's platform, Past, Present, and Possibilities, and we, exchanged numbers, and I thank you so very much for joining on today, and I look forward to seeing you on our future Success in Motion shows. So you all, I thank each and every one of you again for taking out your time to join us on our Success in Motion platform on today. Next week, we will have our next guest who will be joining us to promote their business, because for the entire month of July, we are promoting businesses, you all, getting the word out about you, promoting you, your brand, your business, your organization, your ministry, whatever it is that your cause is. We are promoting you. So if you would like to join the platform, be one of our guests, you can email me at nicole@strategicimageconsultant.com, or you can call or text me at 248-987-8307. You all, thank you for joining again, and you all have a fantastic week. And until next time, God bless you. I love you, and I will see you soon. Have a great evening. Mwah.